What is going on? Today we are going to speedrun making $100,000 in real estate. Now we're not going to purchase it officially, but we are going to find the deal. And in today's market, especially in Western Australia, people are always saying there's no deals. So I'm going to find one. We're going to do it live here. I haven't done this. There's no preparations. I've got the 3 tabs open and we're going to make $100,000. So the scenario is a friend of mine approached me and he said he's looking to get some equity, so he wants to renovate a property and he wants to pull out the equity to build his portfolio. The problem is in Australia, especially Western Australia, the housing shortage has caused a huge increase in prices, and a lot of people are under the impression now that you can't find a deal publicly and that it needs to be off market. Now, it's true that off market it's a lot easier to get a good deal, but you can still find deals, especially renovation deals, where we're pulling equity out and running this BRRRR method. So BRRR, buy, renovate, refinance, rent. And it's very much possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into that. If you don't know who I am, I'm Corey. I help buyers purchase properties like this to make money is the goal of real estate. Let's be frank. And we specialize in either finding refinancing projects, BRRRR method, so renovating projects, or whether you're doing a long-term portfolio using rent returns, so buying a house, paying $1,000 a week on mortgage and returning $1,500 a week. So those two methods. Now, what we're going to do to start, we need to find a suburb. If we pull up, let me pull up a map. We're doing this in Western Australia because this is where the friend is located. Now, it is a huge map in Perth, right? You normally have the centre, and we're obviously always torn between north and south of the river. South of the river is really good, and there's a lot of developing suburbs here. However, there's a few in Western Australia that sort of stand out as that have been a lot cheaper in the past, we'll say, and we know there's equity in there. So to find the 100k, ideally what we need to do is we need to find a house where it's underpriced. So we need under market value is one. We also need, we should make these way bigger, and we also need likely a renovation project. So we're going to need a project in here. We're going to use keywords such as tear down, tear woodwork. We're going to use renovation, we're going to use developer. All of these words work fantastically for these. We could use start new, but I think it's going to be a little tricky with it. You can start there. Pretty sure that's spelled wrong. So we need under market developer. In the way to do this is we need to find suburbs that aren't really popular. So when we're looking at these, we're looking at the ones that were public housing. We're looking at the ones that are known to be a lower socio-economic class within Western Australia, which is usually a lot of the eastern suburbs. So when we go in here, obviously anything along the coast, so this line is the freeway, anything along here is expensive. Anything that's on the right hand side, so this side here, is usually a lot cheaper, and it's usually a lot cheaper by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Same thing applies here. We go down the freeway, more expensive, less expensive because of the freeway. Now the other way is this suburb around here, because of the location of the airport, has always been sort of the cheaper houses right down here. So they're the older houses, they're the cheaper houses around Midland, around Armidale, Thornley, Guildford, this has gone up a lot now, but along these ones are usually the a lot cheaper houses, right? So let's check there first. And what we're going to do is we're going to head over to smartpropertyinvestment.com, not a plug, and we're going to go on highest growth suburbs to start. And we're just going to go WA and see what we have here. So East Perth, you don't really want East Perth because these are all units, a lot of this. This is the country. Thornley is great. We'll start Thornley, like I said, Thornley, Armidale. Lake Clifton could work. These are to the country. We don't want that. Country, 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 and Swan possibly work. We can look into Upper Swan. Now, the reason we don't want the country is the country towns are really good for rental portfolios. So the capital appreciation in country towns are not a lot. Now I know it says 41% here, but they don't over the long haul, over long term, they don't go up a lot. Also, this project that we want, we're trying to find $100,000 fast, right? We're trying to do a 6 to 12 week flip, and then sell it, pull the equity out, and make the 100 grand. We're not trying to do this over years' time. So we can go with Thornley. Thornley works. Armidale works. So Thornley is around here. Thornley. So Thornley is in here. We'll look at Thornley. We will look at Gosnells. All of these suburbs are usually those houses that we're talking about. And then we'll also look at Armidale as well. So jump in here. Let's go Thornley. Let's go Armidale. Let's do one suburb at a time, just so we can keep it in. We want houses. So when we're looking at all of these, obviously retirement living, you can't really renovate those due to the bylaws. Townhouses go okay. However, in terms of renovation projects, not the best. Acreage, not the best. Rural, not the best. Block units are okay. However, the current project of what we're trying to do, that's not in the Friends budget. Villas and apartments, obviously, we can't make a huge profit really fast with those unless we do blocks. So we can leave all this blank. Ideally, we don't want to limit bedroom, bathroom because we don't care about that. We just want to make sure that it's a single house on a freestanding dwelling and we can actually do stuff and destroy stuff in it. The prices, we don't want a price range. We want to compare the market so we can see it all as a whole. Going through down here, this is order of matter. I want to exclude the property, so I don't want to see stuff that is under contract because I don't care about those at the moment. We're just going to do a search. Now, we're going to search lowest to highest, always, so we can see it in here. We're still picking up some units in here. Take a sip of my now cold coffee. So we're looking at the start, right? So 525 for a unit. We don't want units. We can see these ones don't have prices. No prices. 845. And then we're jumping 854, 4x2s, 800. So just quick look, the lowest prices we're looking at about the 800s upwards. So if we go to this one, you can see it's been renovated. However, well, not renovated, it's been upkept. The kitchen's been done. This may be a good project purely for the development, but it doesn't really fit into the scope of what we're doing. You want to sell based on the fixtures and the fittings you put in the property, not on the land itself. That's a completely different project. So we can see R40. It is a 3x1 as well. 650 is the rent. So it's not a bad property. However, in terms of flipping it, probably not ideal. We want something that's a little more trashed than this. I'm not sure what the price of this is. Here, this looks fine. You're not going to get a huge increase from something like that. Pool, these already looks like it's semi-modern, so you don't really want to target those types of properties. It will make sense when you sort of see the properties that are picked, that it's like, yeah, this is potential. This looks very much like a for sale by owner. Yes, buy my place. So for sale by owners can be good. They're also very, very emotionally attached to the property. So unless they're in some sort of financial hardship, they can be a good deal. This isn't going to give us the price that they want. On it, but that would be a maybe for this one. So Thornley, there's not a huge amount in here. We could go into the more expensive ones, looking at 970. However, a lot of these are already newer, so when you start putting the fixtures in, you're not going to get a huge return back. Now let's jump into Armidale. Is always a great suburb. Look at that, perfect first one. 4.5. We don't want that. We at the lowest highest here. So we don't want these ones. These are all constructions. Now 599 is looking like the entry point. So we can see 599, 599. And when I'm saying the entry point, it's not to identify this is what we're trying to sell it for. It's to identify this is where it's starting. So if I find one at 599, and then I see one like the above, that's at 469, without doing any further research, I know 3x1s, so 3x1s in here, these are units as well, that this is 130 grand straight away under market, just like that, right? So it's not a indication guide. We'll go through more of that later on. But all of these are looking 3x1, 599, as we can see. This would be another possible project. Now let's see what a decent 600, a decent one looks like at this price. Under offer. So 719. This is decent fixtures and fittings, very minimal. It still has a room for renovations. Backyard could be fixed. These are 40 zoned, so they're a bit skewed on the data. Okay, so this is what a very basic renovation is looking like at the moment. So we can see, let's jump back to the start so you can see what we're seeing. We have a R40 block, so it can be subdivided, which helps the selling price. We're not in a unit, we have an external garage. This will add about a 50k onto the price, so it's about 750 minus this. The flooring is basic flooring. You're probably looking at a 5-ish k if you lay it yourself. For that, they've just tidied everything up. They've done new fresh paint. The aircon looks like old one. They haven't touched any of the fans. They've painted all the cornices. They've got a very, very basic kitchen, and they've put a backsplash on it. In terms of the bathroom, they haven't touched the bathroom. They've looked like they may have just painted this. In here, these are all clean. You can see they haven't done any of the blinds as well. Now the only thing, if they added, which I don't think it'd be worth, it'd get a lot bigger price, is they could have removed the browns and done it to white, just to brighten and make the room a little bigger. So we have a sunroom in here. Again, these could have been renovated, but in terms of the price, it wouldn't have increased a huge amount to what you would actually put into it. The grass is okay. This is alright. There's little things you can change, but we can see, and we also have a rear entrance, which is a big selling point. So we can see 4x1s that are partly renovated on an R40 block. It is about the 800s. And then we start getting into the nicer stuff at about the 850s and 4 bedrooms. So keeping that in mind, let's jump on this thing. This is a cracker of a renovator. So here's your keywords, as we said, right? Renovation, tear, developer, sold as is another one, but just keep in mind if you put sold as is, sold will appear, as is will appear. So renovators, investors, big block, we'll have to go through, check the data on it. We run the comps, we're looking at 2625. So for your mortgage payment, 625 divided by 30 days in a month times 7, so 612 for holding the property. On a 6-week build, it's going to cost about 3,500 of mortgage fees that you'd have to cover. 659. This is a trash house. A lot of it with these sort of trashed houses shouldn't put you off. Now they are bad, don't get me wrong, and I could imagine the smell that's in there, but you also got to remember in the renovation costs and these flipping costs, you can get people that clear these out fairly cheap. A few grand would help someone bring this in and get it all sorted. You can even do it yourself if you don't mind the smell. Just get the whole bench and take it all off, straight into a big dump bin, put it on the lawn, and just chuck it straight in a skip bin, as we call it in Australia. Now, and looking at this, we need paint, we need new aircon, we need cleanup crews. This likely would need new ceiling. Fans broken. Here's a word of advice and a tip that no one ever follows when looking at these houses renovating. Always look up. I learned that very early in real estate career, that no one ever looks from shoulder. They always look straight and they always look down. Even then, they don't really look down, like right down, straight, but they rarely look up. So often things around here will always get missed. And that is it. Perfect. 469. So 3 bedroom. Let's have a look what's happening on the back end. Where are we going? We're going on the real estate database. We are going this one here. Pictures are all there. All right. Let's jump into the map first. Let's see where it is. What do we got here? So we have backing onto a reserve isn't always the best, but in terms of resale, it's not a bad thing. We'd have to do a street view. Can we do a street view in here? See what if it's an actual park or what's going on here. Okay, so it's a park. It's not a bad thing. What we want to look for is if there is a playground, but it's not looking like it. No. We're also looking for noticeable like people camping out sort of things, like tents and stuff. So noticeable stuff in there, which is not looking like. Looking at the street view, with some decent cars and all that, which is all right. Now we have a bus stop here, which can be a selling point. We got another park here that looks like a lawn bowls recreational type center. Yes, badminton's there. We have support center there. Let's just zoom out a little bit. So the schools are 5-minute drive. We've got another school here. Shopping center is the other big thing that we are looking for, which would be down here by the looks of it, is some of the commercial. Possibly in there. And we just go over to this side a bit more. It's all over here. That's your TAFE. So it doesn't look too bad. Now in terms of main roads, Armadale Road's there, and then another main road there. So it's not super bad. Now the other thing we want to look at is, now while we're on here, is we want to do a street view of this front one. So let's jump right in the front here. And it'll give you an idea of neighbors. It'll give you an idea of what's happening in the street. Why is it trashed? And a good way to do is you look for car bodies. So car bodies are vehicles that aren't being used, just lying on the front lawn. And usually that tells you a lot about it. So the street's not looking too bad. It's very typical Armadale. This obviously has well-maintained gardens, which is good. I'm assuming this is the house right here. So we have a lot of lawnage at the front. We have a pathway for a second driveway right here. And it's not looking too bad. The street neighbors are, I don't know why it keeps blurring, aren't too bad. Cars are okay, is another indicator of, you can see what we're looking for in there. Usually they're working class people if they have, $10,000 to $30,000 cars. I'm trying not to be rude. I'm not meaning to be, looking down on anyone or anything. It just helps with understanding, if he's driving this sort of car, he probably works full time, right? There's probably not really Homes West stuff around here. Okay, so there's nothing really that's standing out in that. Let's jump back into here. So we have 826 square meters, which is decent. Now, what we're going to do is, we can see it was listed on the 10th of February, so it's only been on the market for one day. It's listed at $469,000. No previous owner before, so same owner this whole time. And what else can we pick up? I think that's it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that front bit so you don't see the owner's name. We can see the valuation. I'll leave it like that. So you can see the valuations at 680 for that, around that suburb, median confidence. And the owners lived here for 30 years. So I wonder if we can... No. All right. So in terms of what it is, right, it's not a bad property. I mean, it's trashed. But if you're pulling this at 469 and you're probably looking at $70,000 of renovations, we're looking... Let's do some quick math on this. Let's just go 70,000 for the time being. Let's add some actual zeros. So we're looking at 539. So it's up there, right? When we're looking at these, and the CMA said, 680. We can grab this 680. We're looking at 140,000 extra on top of that. So you can only take 80% out of a property. So we're on, let's just say 140. This is the best case scenario. There's a few other fees and everything you have to do. But if we don't take 80% out because of the refinance equity withdrawal, we need 0.8, so 80%. And if we made 140, that's 112K. You're spending 70 grand on costs to renovate it, which if we're looking at it, we'll look maybe 3, we should add them up as we're doing this. I'm going to say 3 to clear everything. This is clear everything, not clean it. Just keep that in mind. That's just removing all the stuff from here. We need, there's not too much of in here, but I'm assuming we're going to need new blinds, new paint, and everything. So general rule is you'll spend about 30K on the very basic stuff. So flooring, painting, patching, fixtures, without getting to the rooms, and then everything else after that. So depending on the structure, it's not looking too bad. I think it's definitely a potential to get to the 100K profit mark 100%. So we're looking at these at 719. So this is 3x1. Let's just see where this is. So we want to go like this, and we want to head over to here, and we want to paste this here, and then we want to grab this here. We do directions, and we want to come from here to here. So it's not super far away from the house. It is on the other side of the main highway, which, if anything, it's like Wanneroo, where, you know, the lower socioeconomic class is down here, and then it's a little bit higher up here. So that will affect it a little bit. But in looking at that, we're looking at 719 minus 469. So there's 250K room just to get it to the standard, which is really all you want at something like this, right? So we have floors. This has laminated hardwood. No, it looks like the original hardwood floors. You can see paint, the skirting, everything's adjusted. The bathroom's not changed. It will look like that in the other house. So there's not a huge difference in it, but there's a 250 grand price difference. And the backyard's the same. It's just removing the trash. So I think that would be definitely a viable choice. 100%. If we run some numbers, you may also need to do kitchen. It really depends on that. But we know it's a 250K difference between them. So, you know, a kitchen put you back about 30-ish thousand. If we had to do a full renovation, we're probably looking at 150. But still, that's another 100K profit. So if we pull out, we want 100K. Let's do some maths like this. So we know the difference is 250,000. If we need to pull out 100K, and we made that much, that's a 40% you're pulling out. So that would allow 150,000 in renovations, which is plenty to do. If we're looking at, kitchen would be 30-ish, bathrooms about 15 each. I think there was one bathroom, all the fixtures and everything we need in there for flooring, painting, all that stuff's probably about 30. The backyard didn't need to change a huge amount, just thinking back on how it looked. But we can put maybe 10 to clear it, cleaning, all of that is probably going to be about 7,000. So we're still stacking them up, but that's still 92, right? We've got 250 difference, and we only need, we could spend 150 for the budget. So I think it's definitely the property to make 100k. We found that very quickly, I would say. I expected to be searching a lot longer, and this video to be a lot longer. The only other thing I'll do is, I know we had it in here, so we can see that the price is going up. What we'll do is we'll open REWA. We won't use the agent portal. Just go insights. So once we found sort of the property, it's not super important for the renovation ones, but we want to go to, where are we? Armadale. And we just want to do a quick stats. So we want to ideally look at trend levels. Yeah, popped up as expected. So the boom has started happening since 2023, and obviously as it was lower, so you can see only 6 years ago you could get houses for 210,000. This is what I mean, as this was one of those cheaper suburbs, like in Desired, if you wanted to do the renovations, because they were so cheap compared to everywhere else. But you can see, 210, and now we're peaking up solely because of how cheap the houses are compared to the rest of it. The rent's not super important, we don't need that. Sales, so rent's at 20 days, about right. Sales about 9, and growth rate is one of the second biggest one. So these are good. This is reflecting of the boom that's happening and the lower price here. And ideally, even the 10-year, it's still a 7% growth over 10 years. So meaning, if we kept at this current rate, which is looking like it's 1 in 5, if we did a 7-year 7% growth and we get it to 600, we're looking at about 42k growth, which isn't too bad. Not too bad. I think that'd be the house I'd sort of recommend. Obviously, it'd be subject to checking it out. Bank valuation, or the bank may be hard to get sort of houses like this, so you'd have to possibly look at a money partner. But overall, I don't think it's as bad as it looks. It's definitely a decent house to look at. Just looking at the for sales that are in here, 680 unit, 4x2, 800s. We're going for freestanding, 599. These are units as well. So really, yeah, that's the one we looked at. No strata. So that'd be probably one of the main ones I'd recommend. And you can see in doing that, we should be able to turn over 100k profit instantly. And then we would have the mortgage at 2625. Let's break that down into weekly. 2625, we want to divide that by 30 times 7, so 612 a week. And then what we can actually do is we can go back to our main house in here. I'm trying to use realestate.com and rework as much as possible. So it's actually what you guys would use as well. Wow, it's like a cabin looking. It's interesting. So Armadale, what are we doing? Lowest to highest. This is a 3-bedroom. No, we can go 3x3. Pretty sure that's a retirement village. So 550, 560, 560. So if you pulled all of the equity out, it's not possible, but even if we did, we would only be at a shortfall of $60 a week. $60 a week. And we would have gained over 100 grand. Yeah. So trade $60 a week for $100,000 profit, which you could probably even get more than 550 really. Oh, not going to be that high. These are all unit stuff. I think you get pretty close to it. This is a very nice. It's got a shed, but I don't think the other one had a shed. Even this one's on Albany Highway. This is right on the highway. It's just because it's clean. So 600. I think you could possibly, after you take into account the deposit as well, you're definitely not going to be super negatively geared. You're going to have a decent negative, probably 500-600, and you'll be able to pull 100k out and then put it into the next property straight away and start building it up, refinance it. And I think you'd be positive for about $10 to $30 a week after everything, which I know people won't believe me in saying that, but trust me. Trust me. So yeah, that'd be the one I do. I'm going to call it there. I think we achieved that far quicker. I expected this to be an hour-long video, but it might be an hour long. But something like this is what you're looking for. I hope that allowed you to actually see the thinking process, sort of how we go about it. Now, when we're doing the different scenarios, it may look a lot different. I'm going to use different platforms, obviously. This exercise was purely to show that you can still do it as yourself, right? You don't need buying agents. You don't need people like me to actually help do it. However, we do then use different platforms. You probably find a lot bigger profits in off-market deals, and we use a lot of statistical data. Now, you don't need to use it, as we've seen. We pretty much analyze the whole deal there, and you're going to make decent amount of dough for that. But the only difference is that we'll use, statistical. We'll look at 5 years, we'll look 10 years down the line, exit positions, how much money we're going to make, is it actually worthwhile doing it, probability of certain things happening, infrastructure happening, all this sort of fun stuff. But the goal for this project was to make money, make $100,000. We found a property 250 grand under market value, which, subject to approval of the banks and a inspection and valuation, it's a pretty good deal. So I'm going to call it there. I think we achieved the goal. If you liked what you saw, like and subscribe. Also, let me know if you want to do more of these. I'm thinking about doing a series of helping and recording, finding properties over certain things, finding client requirements, which I'd love to just bring you along for the journey and include you into how we do that with a walkthrough and try to make it as public access, or as use as much public resources as possible. So I will see you all in the next video.